This retreat, the inspiration is the people of Siruvani, and specifically the villages where our Chinmaya organization for rural development, they attend, they participate, are benefited by. Inspiration is what allows us to move forward. Just like food, if we lack food, we can't move forward. Like fuel, if we don't have fuel in our cars, we can't move forward. Without inspiration, we can't move forward. We tend to be complacent with our own health, with the relationships and the people around us, in our workplaces, in school, etc. I came across this book called Inspiration. What a simple title. And a quote, "Every day is shared, hoping to bring that fuel, bring that food into our lives to be better." That is what the essence of Sanatana Dharma is yoga. The philosophy of yoga, which is continuous improvement, perpetual betterment. And the reason for all of this is to be happier. I heard a quote that said, the only one who's not pursuing peace is the one who is peaceful. So are we peaceful? And superficially, sure. But fundamentally, perhaps not, which is why we need to grow. Yesterday we began, and different CHYKs came and shared a date and the quote that is associated with that date. Why you chose these dates, I'm still trying to figure out. I have some analysis of this. And a lot of the quotes in the summary of yesterday was about fear. That because of fear we don't start, because of fear we miss out on our potential, that we should have courage. All of this can be addressed through having an ideal in one's life. I recently gave a talk on cheerfully facing difficult situations. And difficulty, that word difficulty is only used if we're not aware of why we're doing whatever. But if we're aware of why we're doing whatever, then it's not difficult. If we asked a sadhu like Puja Swami Chinmayananda, you slept very little, you traveled so much and so on, wasn't it difficult? He would say it's more difficult not doing that than doing that. So difficult is when we lose track of the ideal. But when the ideal is within our radar, then we don't use such words. And if we do, it's just conversation. This is titiksha, which in both of our yatras we emphasized a great deal. And Lord Krishna says in chapter 2 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the one who practices titiksha is fit for immortality, which means that they'll be happy always. All right. We'll begin with a quote from yesterday, March 21st. And it's such an apt quote. This is God's grace that's manifesting. You can't wait for inspiration. You have to go after it with a club. Jack London. You can't wait for inspiration. You have to go after it with a club. Jack London. And when I first read this word club, I didn't think of club as in one's hand. I was thinking like a club, like a social, like a social club. And isn't it true that some of our most inspiring moments have been in such satsang, like I had pointed out yesterday? And when everyone's pursuing inspiration, then we're able to manifest that and invoke that more. In the year and a half before the Vedanta course, when I left, I had this constant sentiment that something or someone or some circumstance is going to come into my life and is going to give me meaning, is going to give me inspiration. And I kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And finally I realized that it's not going to come into my life, but I have to use my life to go after that. And I think that if I didn't follow this quote, then I would not have the meaning that I have in my life right now. And here is where we have to let go of complacency. We have to have the courage to make such changes. We all have such questions. One of our CHYK groups recently did a discussion on big questions. Who are you? Are you happy? What are you going to do with your life? Etc., etc. We all have these questions. We're intelligent people. But do we follow these questions? That's where courage is needed. It's like complaining to a corporation. You can complain to them and send them an email, but does things get done. But if you have the courage to follow through, that I want this to happen, that you wronged me in this way, or whatever it may be, then change takes place. This requires our active participation. And Puja Swami Chinmaya says Lord Krishna's message is active resistance to evil. If it's passive, evil will find ways to bring us down. But if we're actively resistant, then that's not the case. It's like being a pushover. People who are pushed over continue to get pushed over. But if you have the courage to stand up for yourself, then slowly people stop pushing you over, and at a point then they don't even try to push you over. But we have to be active in setting that up. Okay? You can't wait for inspiration. You have to go after it with a club. You have to make inspiration your own. The violent implication here is you hit something with a club and then you become the master of it. So that's what's being implied here too, is we have to make inspiration our own. And if there's one prayer that I can offer all of us, is to live a life of inspiration. All begins with that. Like metal, to make this watch, they had to heat the metal before they did anything to that metal. So for us too, if we don't have inspiration, it's a lot of intellectualism, but no transformation. And inspiration comes from a ideal, which is what we're trying to expose ourselves to. All right? Naveen, please come in. Choose a. He's scared. Choose. Pick a day and read that quote. There's a microphone on the stage.
June 10th.
Microphone. That's why there's a microphone on the stage. It looks good on the stage, doesn't it?
It does. Hello, Hariam. June 10th. Friendship is the only cement that will ever hold the world together. Woodrow Wilson.
You can read it again.
I'll read it again. June 10th. Friendship is the only cement that will ever hold the world together. Woodrow Wilson.
If we think about one of the greatest sources of joy in our lives, it is people. And not random people, but those people who become closer and closer and closer to us. And strangers turn into casual friends, and casual friends turn into best friends. Then we say, my best friend forever, and it goes like that. I'm doing a camp in Portland next week called Krishna, my best friend forever. And that's the level of how a friendship should transform, from casual to sincere to realizing the divinity in that person. That is the only way to truly maintain a friendship, because if I don't, it becomes an exchange. I like you because you like me back. I enjoy your company because you enjoy my company. It's transactional and in a very emotional way. But real friendship can only come when I start to identify with that person. Who is my best friend? Myself. Sheila wants me to say her, but it is myself. And then we expand out from there. And when I say myself, next is the creator. Really, the self with an S is the closest, then the creator, and we expand outwards from there. And that is the only cement that will ever hold the world together. What if the self goes away? Everything goes away. See how solid this sentence is, and that's why it's called Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana means eternal. Dharma means that which integrates. This subject integrates this existence forever. And if we don't study and live this, then there's that disintegration that takes place. At a relative level, you and I are not at the stage where we're not social people. We're going to test this later in the year. Our next retreat at Chinmaya Dhara is called Silence. Like right now, you're on your feet for approximately 48 hours. There you're going to have your mouth shut for 48 hours. The whole retreat will be in Mona. And what's very exciting about that is that it's during Deepavali. So we will have our Deepavali celebration, and there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be excited and being Rajasic, but all of you will have to be in Mona. Even there will be people here giving a concert, they have to be in Mona. So at a relative level, we cannot break out of this mold of interacting with each other. Even when people are walking around, they're slowly like sneaking looks at each other and smiling and so on and so forth. So knowing that, whatever happiness we have should be shared. Puja Swami Tejamayana shared the secret to being happy. What is the secret to being happy? Making others happy. See, I started my thought off by saying you have to be happy first. That's absolute. At a relative level, it is to share happiness. And how do you know if you're doing this? By the smiles of the people around you. If you walk into a room and everyone kind of moves away or, or they're more sad because they're tweeting, oh, he's here now, then we're not living this quote. But if we see that people are happy being around us, they want to be around us, they want to put effort to be around us, etc., naturally we're offering them something that's worthwhile. So share happiness. And this is where we take our pledge. We want to produce more than what we consume and give more than what we take. This is the time where everyone just closes their eyes and just moves their mouth like this, and it's like a 30-second nap. And then they wake up and move on. Friendship. And when I was at Boston University, I did a talk on winning the war within. And in winning the war within, this was right after the bombing took place at the marathon. And many of the strategies that we're trying to employ to save the world is not working. Whether it's laws or whether it's people taking care of those laws or taking care of bodies, etc., it's just not working. We need people to go deep into people's personalities and inspire them. To perform inception with inspiration. Then people will not think of hurting other people. This preventative medicine has to take place much more strongly than reactive. And friendship is a good example of that taking place. Rashmi, you haven't read yet, correct? Okay. Microphone. While she's getting ready, you should all be getting some steps going. Jog on the spot, whatever it may be.
April 19th. Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Thomas A. Edison. Should I read it again? Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Thomas A. Edison.
I've made a pledge in my mind, I hope I can achieve it, to take 24,000 steps today. Yesterday I did 12,000, so today I'm trying to take 24,000, and I hope we can all do that together. That's a lot of moving, so this has to be perpetual. Like purification of mind, it has to be perpetual. This is a quote. How many of you heard this quote before? Genius is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. Okay. Taking this to Vedanta, religion is the combination of philosophy and practice. Thank you. It brings me great joy when people remember what I've been sharing for 6 years. Philosophy and practice. If I just have philosophy but don't practice it, then I call myself what? Spiritual. And I've often encouraged you to say it like that. I'm a spiritual person. With that finesse. Which means that I know a lot, but I don't believe it. Because if I believed it, I would act on it. It's like me saying I love you, but I don't do anything for you. Right? That's a very commercial or a corporate way of expressing that. And then you have practice, okay? If I just practice but don't have philosophy, how am I going to be better? My sister sent me an article on mindfulness. And I was going through it because I like to share some of these relative thoughts with people through Acharya, etc. And the first thing that I didn't like is where they said mindfulness originated from. They didn't say mindfulness originated from Sanatana Dharma. When anyone who studies the Vedas or Srimad Bhagavad Gita, it's right there. So many shlokas highlight this. The second part I didn't like was you can practice mindfulness you can practice meditation on your own. Once I read that, I just deleted that article and didn't go further than that. Here, I can't learn calculus without a professor, but I'm going to learn meditation without an instructor, without a teacher. So if we just practice, but we don't have the philosophy, how do I practice? In which direction do I practice? What Edison is sharing here is, if we just have a little bit of inspiration in our life and act on it, momentum is built. See, a lot of these quotes, they just leave that one line, but there's not a commentary that goes with it. So we take it and we're moved by it, but not moved a lot. But with the commentary, it's much more. For those who are studying Gita, if we just take the shloka and even the English transliteration, right, yeah, it's good. Wow, Lord Krishna is awesome. But if there's no commentary, how do I really put this into practice? With a little bit of inspiration, if I practice this, that perspiration, then I will build momentum to just live my life accordingly. And Lord Krishna has said the same in chapter 2 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. He says a little bit of karma yoga will save one from great fear. He doesn't say a lot of karma yoga, just a little bit. Because once I start breaking out of that fear, once I start liberating preconceived notions I have, then this will become more natural. So we don't need to know a lot, we need to do a lot. And many of us, we've been going to retreats for so many years. We've been going on yatras for so many years. And we know a lot. I'm confident everyone in this room knows a whole lot. But the challenge is, do we believe what we know? So here's where Mananam makes this more of a belief, and experimentation. Puja Swami Chinmayananda often shared, the longer the beard, the more the suspicion. He would say, call out my bluff. In other words, try it. And you will know that this message is not from an individual, but it's from a parampara, that this is time-tested. Whenever we think of experimentation, we think of psychedelic experiences and traveling to Thailand and Indonesia and so on and so forth. And that's fine. But the real scientists, the real people who experimented were our rishis, who didn't go outside, which everyone else is doing. They went inside. We took a whole subject, a class on this in the Foundation Vedanta course. Be a scientist of the inner world. Okay? Abhimanyu, please choose a quote with the mic. Steps.
Hari Om. August 22nd. A person hears only what they understand. By Johann Wolfgang von Goethe.
Read it again, especially the name.
So the quote is by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. A person hears only what they understand.
Good stuff. August 22nd is a significant day for this ashram. August has been a really awesome month for Chinmaya Dhara and for me personally. August was when I went to the Vedanta course, August of 2005. We purchased this ashram in August of 2007. We had I was made an Acharya of this ashram in August of 2008. Guruji came we had our inauguration in August of 2009. We had our Murti Stapana in August of 2010. I got married in August of 2010. Phew, I put that in there. August of 2011, I was made a director of CHYK West. In August of 2013, I was made the visiting Acharya of Pittsburgh. So August 22nd is a very significant day for this ashram and me personally. A person hears only what they understand. Here, I would change the word hearing to listening. We all hear whether we understand or don't understand. That is something that is biological. I cannot stop these ears from hearing, whether there's traffic outside or someone's walking up the stairs. I have to do that. There's no choice there. But listening is when my mind is behind my ears, by my auditory function, where I'm registering that input and that output. In other words, what the gentleman said is we have to practice. We learn by Shravanam. We should practice Shravanam. We should learn by Shravanam. Here, listening doesn't just take place with the ears. It takes place with all of our organs of, what are they called, organs of? Perception or? Jnanindriyas. Jnana means that by which we know. Indriya means that which illuminates. So my sense organs, my organs of perception, help me to know, or they illuminate the world for me. Based on that, my organs of reaction kick into play. So I hear, so I listen, and then I speak accordingly. We have to learn always, not just here. When you leave here tomorrow at whatever time, you should be learning about the person next to you on the plane. How are they experiencing their flight? You should learn to not be tired. You know, you slept late, but you got up early in the morning, whatever it may be. Balaveer students, today little girl will be speaking on Holi, and then an older man will be speaking on, on Holi as well. So it's not just, oh, I'm just going to learn from the older man, but I'm going to learn from that 6-year-old girl as she speaks on Holi as well. Because then understanding takes place. When understanding takes place, appreciation takes place. That is where we begin to move. But if I don't understand, I'm not moved. Suppose you're talking to me, but I'm not listening to you. I'm focusing on my chili with my cheese and the fact that someone else took more. So you're speaking, but I'm not listening. And you look up to me for a reaction. What do? Did you say something, right? Or I just smile and nod. Are you a loser? Yes. There's no change that takes place. I'm not moved by it. But when I'm wanting to learn, that's where transformation takes place in one's personality. Fair? Okay, Alyssa. You haven't gone yet?
April 23rd.
I don't think it's on.
I don't think it's on. No, it's on. April 23rd. Hope never dies where faith is strong, and faith grows strong in the presence of hope. Chad Whitmire. Hope never dies where faith is strong, and faith grows strong in the presence of hope. Chad Whitmire.
No, I reread these twice. It's like Indian poetry. You know, they read each line twice, and you're all supposed to say? Wow. Yeah. Even though it's not our quotes, but yeah, sure. What is the difference between belief, faith, knowledge? And I say this because hope, faith, all of these words are very interchangeable. It depends on the context and the person who's sharing those thoughts. The way I like to present this model is everything begins with belief. And essentially it's blind. There's not a lot of backing to it. When one goes on a date for the first time, you don't really know that person. There's that element of being blind, and I mean that in an emotional sense, of not knowing that person, and I'm just going to try. As you continue courting with that individual, that belief turns into faith. That through my reflection that this person is honest and this person is looking out for me, and we have all of those positive emotions, that positive sentiments that go with it. But it only came by reflection, through that mananam. So belief evolves into faith. Faith then it has to evolve into knowledge. Do you have faith that I have a paduka, a stone paduka, in my hand? You already know what I'm going to say, but some people are yes. we That faith has to evolve into knowledge. You shouldn't have faith that I have a paduka in my hand. You do have knowledge that there's a paduka in my hand. That comes through experience. So even going back to the relationship, I meet someone and I just have some understanding of them, so it's blind, that first interaction. But then through reflection, I get to know them, I get to know their family, etc. It turns into faith. Then through experience, meaning even longevity, that turns into knowledge. I know this person is good for me, or I know this person is not good for me. Here, what is being shared, I would replace the word belief with, replace the word hope with belief. That belief never dies where faith is strong. In other words, that I've gone past that belief. Now I'm at a faith stage. And faith grows strong in the presence of hope. It is only when I begin with belief that there can be hope. But if I don't have that belief, then I can't evolve to hope. These are very subjective words. How do you measure hope? You can measure intelligence to a certain degree, but how do you measure hope? How do you measure faith? These are highly subjective terms, and the way to bring these terms to life is get to know who you are. When you know who you are, and not just, I'm not talking about just the self, that's ideal, but even get to know your body. You know, when people fast, I know some people that every Monday they fast, and so this is what they eat on Mondays. Potatoes, fruits, milk, tea. That's their concept of fasting on Mondays. But we did Starving for Service a couple of years ago. And some people went without juices. Some people went without water. But we have to know our body to know how much to engage. Remember our hike that we went on to, that the pretend hike that we went on at Chinmaya Vibhuti. I'm talking about the second yatra. First yatra was solid. We did that fully. Second yatra. So, but you have to know your body. I can keep encouraging you, come on, do it, do it, do it, do it. But if you can't do it, then you should be able to, but you can't. But you can't do it. So you have to know your body. You have to know your mind. This is what happens in satsang, is we get to learn about our mind. Then we get to know our intellect. And if I don't know my body, I can't know my mind. If I don't know my intellect, I cannot know my ego. If I don't know the ego, I cannot touch Brahman. That's that whole BMI chart. It's that evolution upwards. And at the bottom of this BMI chart, what is the last three letters? First, I get to know the world. Then I get to know the in-between stage of the world and me. There's the BMI. So the world, my relationship with the world. Then I get to know me, and I evolve to, vasanas here means ego. Then I get to know Om. I can't jump from knowing my watch to knowing Brahman without skipping my body and mind and intellect. So get to know yourself, and you will know if you are at a belief stage, at a faith stage, or at a knowledge stage. All right? Ajay, you've not gone yet.
July 16th. It's not what happens to me, it's what happens in me. It's not the size of the problem, but how I handle the problem when I fall. Greg Horn. It's not what happens to me, it's what happens in me. It's not the size of the problem, but how I handle the problem when I fall. Greg Horn.
This solid quote is a reason why you should all sign up for the Foundation Vedanta course, because I feel like every quote we've taken, this course is just an amplification of that. First part of this statement, It's not what happens to me, but what happens in me. This is called the bahikarana, the outer doer. That is my body. That is perception. Where does perception then go? To the mind and intellect. We call that not the bahikarana, but the antakarana, the inner doer. It's not what happens to the hardware that's important, it's what happens to the software. Even the phones, etc., that you're using, you can type away, but if you don't have a processor, if you don't have an internet connection, then it's not much is happening. It is that antakarana. So I can hit this stone on my hand, or better yet, we can go outside and we play Holi. And the temperature that our skin will be experiencing will be the same. +1 degree, +2 degree, whatever it is. But some of you will be cold. Some of you are cold now. It's 22 degrees Celsius in here, and I'm looking at those who are cold now. It's the same temperature. It's not like our skins are feeling a different temperature, but it's that antakarana. That's what's processing. That's what's sending out. It's hot. It's cold. This is very important to note because then we start to grow past our body and we start to develop the mind and intellect, that antakarana. And this leads to the next part of the statement. It's not the size of the problem, but how I handle the problem when I fall. When I fall. It doesn't say if I fall, it says when I fall. Only difference is that F. Between I and if I fall, that word. All of us are going to fall, all of us are going to fail. We talked about that yesterday. Knowing that, I can have fear towards this, or I can be fearless. And Puja Swami Tejamananda shares, in life you either get what you expect, or you get what you don't expect. So if you expected it, why are you scared? You knew it was coming. And if you didn't expect it, you couldn't have done anything, so why are you scared? We are going to fall, we are going to fail, but how quickly will we get up? Even in boxing, the first time that one falls, first or second time, as long as you get up, you're fine. If you get knocked down, a TKO is very different, but if you just fall the first or second time, as long as you get up, you're fine. But if you don't get up, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 10 times, then you lose. And Puja Swami Chinmaya shared that we have to be like a rubber ball. That the harder we fall, the more we have to rebound up. Or we can be like a steel ball, and the harder we fall, we just keep falling more. That's a choice. What material are we made of? And the size of the problem also isn't an issue. Right now, there's 30 people in the room, and some people may be afraid to speak in front of everyone, some people may not. But what if we upped it to 300, to 3,000? It really doesn't matter about how many people are there. If I'm afraid, it depends on me. Some people are scared here, some people are scared there. So here too, what's being shared is, it's what's happening inside. What's happening outside is not to be ignored, but not to be focused on. As I shared about problems yesterday, they're going to come, we're going to fall, we're going to fail. This is what the Creator's program is to make us stronger. There was a movie with Mark Wahlberg that came out, The Last Soldier. I think that's what it's called, or whatever it may be. And at the beginning of the movie, they show people who are training for special services. And they have to endure hot temperatures, cold temperatures, various challenges like that. And why do they train them like that? Because they may be faced like that. And in this movie, they certainly were faced with extreme circumstances. You and I, too, we're going to be faced with such circumstances. So let us train ourselves to handle these problems rather than be handled by those problems. And training. If I understand that this will happen, I can appreciate it and change. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa said that whatever is in our prarabdha, whatever will happen, but how we embrace or reject that is up to us. So as an example, suppose I punch Naveen in the shoulder. He's going to punch me back, okay? But if I'm smart, I'll brace myself. If I'm smart, I'll put a book in there. But it's going to happen, but do I brace myself for that impact? And if I brace myself, he can't move me. But if I'm not braced for that, if I'm not prepared for it, then he can knock me down. So life will be the same way. What we've done will come back to us. It's a matter of making ourselves so strong that we're not succumbing to that. All right. Siruvani. She's a presenter. See how she tapped the mic? You should blow in the mic rather than tap it.
July 6th. How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the consequences of it? Marcus Aurelius. How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? Marcus Aurelius.
Awesome. Think about the person that you got most angry at this past week. Okay? Possibly in this room right right now. Possibly someone you live with. Possibly someone you know intimately, meaning for a long time. So that's where it comes, the point that's shared here is, it's not, and they're the cause of the anger, but they're also the people that are most loving to us or we're supposed to love the most. But the consequences of that emotional exchange, and quite possibly they're not exchanging it with us, we're just exchanging it with them. I've shared this story many times with all of you. There was a young boy who had an intense anger problem. And he was aware of how much it was damaging him and the people around him, and he wanted to grow out of this. And one day after he lost his temper, he was crying and he went to his father and said, I can't do this anymore. I need help to grow out of this. And his father, the wise person and loving person, he walked with him to their garage and he was wiping his tears, and finally he settled down. He said, every time you get angry, I want you to take a nail from this bottle and I want you to hammer it in the fence in our backyard. And this boy didn't understand what was happening, but he was willing to try anything. See, that belief turned into faith. He said, fine, let me try this. And he started doing it. And he started putting nails in this fence, and day by day he put less nails into that fence. And one day he put no nails into the fence. And he ran to his father and he was so happy, and he hugged him and he said, I overcame anger. And his father was so happy and he hugged him back and said, good, let's go see. And they both walked outside and he saw this fence, and his father says, what do you see here? He says, all of the nails that you gave me are in this fence. Okay, it says, good. Now start taking those nails out. And one by one, he had to start pulling those nails out and put it back into that jar, and it was quick. Putting the nails into the fence took a long time. Taking them out was quick. He says, now what do you see? He sees, I see our fence with all of these holes in it. And he says, that's what your anger did. That you pulled them out. You said you're sorry. You did whatever. But all of the damage that was done, we can patch these holes, but it's not as solid as what that fence was originally. And every one of us knows this intimately, and we know people who have gotten into severe trouble because of their anger. I know people I went to high school with who are in jail now because they just got into such a fight where that person killed someone. I know acharyas who are blacklisted because of that anger. This is not a light enemy to take. Grievous consequences. And right now we may have light anger. Remember the quote we said yesterday about slowly breaking ourselves apart? We may have light anger, but if it's not checked, what will it turn into? Medium anger, heavy anger. And someone compared it to it being a charcoal or a coal on fire, and the more angry I get, the more I squeeze it. So who gets burned? I get burned the most, and you get burned too, but I get burned the most. What are we supposed to do about anger? Many of you are choosing what professions you want to take up. Many of you are choosing a significant other. Many of you are choosing where to live and what residency to take up, whatever it may be. And you break out this pros and cons list. These are the pros, these are the cons. In business, we call this a cost-benefit analysis. These are the costs if I don't do this or if I do this, meaning negative. These are the benefits of me doing this or not doing this. So these are the pros. And we act accordingly. Do I buy this business? Do I buy this car? And so on. Number one, in a short term, whenever an angry situation, a circumstance arises, if you cannot handle it, leave. Suppose Rishabh and I are going to get into a fight, and he knows he's going to lose against me, and he can't control it, he should leave. If he can control it, fine. If he can't control it, he should leave because there will be grievous consequences for him if he stays. That's short term, but you can't always leave that circumstance. A coworker, a child, let's say even. So at a mid-level, if the angry thought is coming, what should I do? Change it into a peaceful thought. Not even peaceful. What is the opposite of anger? What virtue is the opposite of anger? Love is the answer to everything, yes. Love, Brahman, etc. I'm looking for something specific. Forgiveness, compassion, all good. Acceptance, yes. Who do you accept the most? Yourself. Who do you get angry at the least? Yourself. When it comes to our family members, we have the highest expectations of them, which means I don't accept them. Expectations and acceptance don't align with each other. With a stranger, I don't have any expectations of them, so I just accept them for who they are. But as it becomes closer, that logic begins to break down. We have to practice acceptance thoughts. So anger thought, anger thought, anger thought. Let me change it to acceptance thought, acceptance thought. That just like I have weaknesses, that person does too. Just like I have strengths, that person does too. But we do it the exact opposite. I only focus on your weaknesses and my strengths. That's like buying a house but not looking at the upper floor. Oh, the bottom floor is good. I don't even need to see the upper floor. Right? That's not going to work out. And at the highest level, there's actually one higher, but I'm not going to get into that, is what I was just sharing about the cost-benefit analysis. If I can think before this angry thought comes that this is not going to be good for me or anyone, I'll let it go. But many times I don't think about it, and I just let it come and take over. Vinay, you did, and you went, Ricky.
January 1st, do what you can with what you have, where you are. Theodore Roosevelt. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. Theodore Roosevelt.
Puja Swami Vivekananda's name back in the day was Narendranath Datta. And one day he was with his friends, and they were talking about how when they're older that their fathers are going to give them this business or this land or whatever it may be. And he and his family were dirt poor. And he was listening to all of his friends talk, but he didn't say anything. And when he came home, he asked his father, "Father, what will I get from you? What will I inherit?" And his father was equally as wise. He put his hand around his shoulder and showed him a mirror and said, "I gave you everything you need. Now what you do with that is up to you." Who is Narendranath Datta in this example? You and I. Who is our father? We can say our biological parents, but more importantly is the Creator. The Creator has made us males and females, respectively, has put us in certain cities and certain jobs with certain vasanas and certain temperaments for our benefit. The best for us. And how often have we studied in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, who is awesome. He's handsome, he's strong, he's successful, he has many wives, he's smart, he has everything. He is ideal person, matrimonial.com, Arjuna. He's the poster person for shadi.com and so on and so forth. And he's sharing all of these statements about why they should not go through with this war. And it sounds wonderful. And Lord Krishna just hears him but does not listen to him. He says, you have a Rata Uttama. Rata here symbolizes the body. Uttama means best. That symbolizes that you are in the best position for you. So face your responsibilities rather than trying to run away from your responsibilities. And we've done that so many times when it comes to jobs. You know, I don't like my job, I don't like my job, I don't like my job. So what should you do? Change your job, right? And then what happens? You find another reason not to like your next job, next city, next CHYK group, and so on and so forth. We are all blessed perpetually by the Creator for our well-being. Today you had cereal in the morning. And if I said, okay, do you want cereal in the afternoon? Some of you may, yeah, I want cereal. In the evening, then you're probably, the chances of you saying it again is less. But if there was a 10-year-old in here, do you want cereal in the afternoon? Yes. Do you want cereal? More. And they keep on going with that cereal and various kinds of, they should have a cereal buffet as a restaurant. That'd be pretty cool. They do, in college. But parents and organizers, they don't allow kids to eat cereal 4 or 10 times a day. And it's frustrating for that child. You know, I don't like my parents. They don't give me cereal. But the parent has to endure that. And imagine how much the Creator endures us. That you made a mistake, you gave me this, you gave me that, you didn't give me this, you put me with this person. And imagine how much he or she would have to endure. This is not the Creator of our life. This is the Creator of the universe. Like he or she doesn't know what's happening always. What an insult it would be to complain about what I'm given or not given. And that child, as they wise up, there's a nice song by the Manic Street Preachers called Wise Up. You should listen to it. When we wise up, we come to appreciate that what we have where we are, it's our responsibility to use that. And if we don't, that same circumstance will be presented again. If I'm in grade 3 and I'm learning multiplication till the number 5, and I don't learn it all, what happens in June? They say, we'll see you back again in your class. And after that, again and again and again. But if I learn to multiply past that, I follow this evolution, I get to graduate to grade 4 and so on and so forth. If we're facing the same hardship again and again and again, maybe we've not learned from that hardship. But only you would know that. That's why I preface this by saying you have to get to know yourself. Okay. Nandini. Whatever quote you choose, you have to speak on. She just ignores me.
April 20.
Just push it all the way up.
April 29th. Blind zeal is soon put to a shameful retreat, while holy resolution, built on fast principles, lifts up its head like a rock in the midst of the waves. Blind zeal is soon put to a shameful retreat, while holy resolution, built on fast principles, lifts up its head like a rock in the midst of the waves.
Based on this quote, let me read, it's William Gurnall. There's a proverb that is encompassing this. Does anyone know what that proverb is? A bird in hand is better than 2 in the bush. That's what's shared here, is that blind zeal we call motivation. I'm a motivational speakers. They tell you to be motivated, but they don't tell you why you should be motivated. I'm handsome. I'm good. People like me. But maybe I'm not handsome. Maybe I'm not a good person. Maybe people don't like me. There's no proof for that. Compared to inspiration, which is of a higher quality, It's based on the message of the scriptures and sages. So blind zeal, many of us get into this on January 1st. We make these intense resolutions. And intense because, we listened to Guruji and he just finished Srimad Bhagavatam and we're on the yatra. I'm going to run for an hour, I'm going to do japa for an hour, and I'm going to be quiet for 1 hour. And I didn't do it on the first day, so okay, I'll give it another day. January 1st. Let's start on Makar Sankranti, January 14th. January 14th. But I was busy because I was coming back from the yatra. So Mahashivratri is on February 27th. Let me start then. But Holi was on March 17th, but we're celebrating Holi on March 22nd, so I'll start today. See, Bhagavan already knows this, so he gives us many reasons to start. Next month is Ram Navami, Hanuman Jayanti, and then Ram Navami, then Hanuman Jayanti. So if you miss one, you have a week to catch up the next time. It's put to a shameful retreat when you and I don't live up to our resolutions. Isn't it shameful? I'm not even talking about other people. We ourselves feel, I can't even do this. That's too bad. While holy resolution built on fast principles, holy, I already talked about the scriptures and sages, and fast principles, practical. I know my body, I know my mind, I know my intellect, I know what I can give, what I can change. It lifts its head up. It doesn't just stay there, it keeps growing. In Pittsburgh, when I was talking at Carnegie Mellon, I did a talk on a new year, a new you. And my parting message to everyone there was, 5 minutes for your body, run. Just run as fast as you can for 5 minutes. Next 5 minutes, sit down and just take a positive word. I encouraged them to do japa, but even if it's life, peace, whatever it may be. Next 5 minutes, close your eyes and do nothing. Just be quiet. And the idea is that if we start with 5 minutes, it will slowly grow to 6, 7. Runners, someone who's truly a runner is not satisfied with a 1K run or a 10K run. They want to go more. Japa. Have you seen Swami Chidananda from Divine Life Society? He used 1,008 mala. We wear 108 malas. We have 54 ones on our wrist. We have 27 ones in our pocket. We have 11 ones we make in Balavihar. How do we even use the 11 ones? He has 1,008, and he used to wear them out. He'd use it so often, they'd start shrinking. He'd have to have other malas because you couldn't even hold them. And contemplation as well. When one is enjoying for 5 minutes and you just want to keep going. When we contemplate, 5 minutes before work. So I sit down to be quiet, but what am I thinking about? Oh, I might be late for work. It's been 1 minute, but I might be late for work. We really want to contemplate. We have to do it much before work or school. That way, I'm not concerned if I go over in time. In the midst of waves, closed eye meditation is the practice, is the scrimmage. Open eye meditation is the game. In the midst of waves, I will still follow this even when I leave satsang. Many of us took up great sadhanas during the yatra. Many of us have taken up great sadhanas here. Will you do the same on Monday? See, the waves, if I'm not, then the waves have brought me down. But if I do, then even amongst those waves, I'm still practicing. Arun, have you gone? It's you.
Both holy and retreat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
October 6th. I can sit back and fold my hands and think about the past, for there are thousands of yesterdays, but only one today and maybe a tomorrow. Red Skelton. I can sit back and fold my hands and think about the past, for there are thousands of yesterdays, but only one today and maybe a tomorrow. Red Skelton.
When you go to Mexico, what kind of food do you look for? Ponderosa, Indian food? What kind of food should you look for? Authentic Mexican food. You shouldn't go to Del Taco or what's the one in the state? Mighty Taco. You shouldn't go to those places. You should go and have authentic Mexican food because you can eat Del Taco and Mighty Taco, etc. all the time in our respective cities. Here, there's only one today. There's lots of days that have passed, but there's only one today. So at a very practical level, the rarity of today should bring my attention to that day. And the word maybe is used for tomorrow is that there may be many tomorrows. Okay? So that is one way to look at this, is the rarity. There will only be one today. Many pasts, I'm sure there'll be a few futures, but there will only be one today. The rarity. That's why platinum is more expensive than silver. It's just more rare. And then they'll keep on coming up with different metals like that, and Indians will buy that. And see, we do it with stuff, but we don't do it with that which is more tangible, which is time. I had presented that yesterday, that if I can learn to make the intangible more tangible, I will value it more. Another way to look at this is, no one here definitively knows that they will make it home tonight, wherever that may be. We don't. And if you said so, then you're speculating, you're assuming, the chances are high, but it's not 100%. And some of you are thinking, we'll make sure that happens. Yudhishthira and Bhima, they were sitting together, and a bhikshu walked outside and said, Bhiksham Dehi. And Yudhishthira and Bhima, as they're chatting, Yudhishthira said, come back tomorrow. We're in a discussion right now. So he left, and as soon as he did, Bhima got up and did a full prostration to Yudhishthira. And Yudhishthira was startled by this because he considers all of the brothers equal. He says, what are you doing, Bhima? I'm your brother, but we're equals. He says, no, brother, we're not equals. You're a master because you know you will be there tomorrow to give to that bhikshu. What a powerful message from Mahabharata, that I only have this opportunity today. And if we put this into our own lives, when we studied Srimad Bhagavatam, how long did Raja Parikshit have? 168 hours. He was a king. We think we have a lot of responsibilities. He was a king. And what did he do with all of those responsibilities immediately? That's functional. I'm now choosing the fundamental because circumstances have forced my hand. What would you and I do if we had 1 week to live? Would you keep doing what you're doing now? I hope so, because that means you're focused on the fundamental. If you're not, is the functional more important than the fundamental? Let's make it even closer. If you have 24 hours to live, what would you be doing? Some people leave right now. So think about it, because tomorrow is not assured. I'll take this from one more level. The only reason you and I should go into the past is to learn from what we've done well and to keep doing it, and to learn from what we didn't do well and to not do it. There is no reason to go into the past for regrets, which is what we tend to do, or be egotistical about achievements. I did this, I went there. That is a wrong reason to go into the past. It requires training to live in the present. And most of our training, in the lack of training, is we go for regrets or we go for achievements. Now, when it comes to the future, the only reason we should go into the future is for planning. But why do we go into the future? For expectations. And so I get beat up. I get lost in it. It's like a wave. It's like an undercurrent that pulls me out. I don't see it, but I get lost in it. So with our relationship with the past and our future should be regulated, and it helps me start to live in the present. Vani.
August 11th. The history of free men is never really written by chance, but by choice, their choice. Dwight Eisenhower. The history of free men is never really written by chance, but by choice, their choice.
And who wrote this quote? Eisenhower. He was a president of the States, right? So imagine the president of the United States, and a great one. He created the highway system in the States, I believe, which I'm very grateful for. He wrote this. So you have to know the person. Ideally, we should know the personality behind the message too, because it presents a lot of context. Why do we love Batman and not Superman? Because I tell you, yes. Other than because I tell you to, why else? Because you can become Batman, but you cannot become Superman. So here, when we study Eisenhower's life, he was an ordinary person. He got involved with politics, family, and he did a lot, etc. He's not someone that we cannot relate to whatever extent. And he's saying that this happened not by chance, but by choice. It's the same idea of going out and getting inspiration. We learn in Vedanta that Bhagavan is the creator, he is the doer, and so he's the deserver. Correct. There is no free will. And to augment this subject, I did a talk in Pittsburgh. So if you go to Ustream, to Chinmaya Sanjeevani, there's a talk called Free Will versus Fate. But as soon as the discourse began, I changed the subject to free will versus God's will. Which one exists, free will or God's will? God's will exists, okay? But I have to be ready to understand and appreciate this message. So as you and I evolve, and we don't use the word chance then, we say this is Bhagavan's will, this is Bhagavan's sankalpa. But right now, you and I are jivas, you and I are egos. We cannot tap into that perspective. Many times when people who are strong with software technology, they tell me things, and I just don't know what they're talking about. I just tell them, you just do it. Just do it for me and tell me what my password is and stuff like that. Because I just don't know what they're talking about. They're the same people who come to the discourses who don't know what I'm talking about. So right now, we believe there is choice at the highest level. What choice? The ego is making the choice, but is the ego real? Which means that's not there either. Naturally, we should train ourselves to that level, but until then, we are responsible for all that comes into our life and all that doesn't come into our life. This is where Bhagavan Krishna teaches, number one, first, you have to let go of deservership. How do you let go of deservership? By focusing on the action. Who's doing the action? You are. Prince Arjuna, you are doing the action, but focus on that, let go of deservership. Later on, he'll say, hey, let go of doership as well, because really it's because of me that this is happening. But that's much later. Let go of deservership. Be responsible. Whenever you and I are not in sync with the universe, we tend to blame. We're very good at blaming. And even in the most ridiculous circumstances where it's nobody's fault, we'll still find it's your fault why this happened or whatever it may be. It's shocking, this blame syndrome that we have. How do we know if we're growing? So if we stop blaming and start practicing responsibility. And even in that, we saw a juggler recently who started off with 2 balls, and then he went up to 3 balls, and he didn't do that. Any ordinary person can do 3 balls. But then he added a 4th ball and a 5th ball. Then he started bouncing them, and then he started bringing in other factors too, with the same level of dexterity. If you and I can be in one circumstance cheerfully, that's the complacency. I need to be able to be in 2 circumstances cheerfully, then 3, then 10, whatever it may be. That's bringing in more. Now I'm going to give you an example of taking out more. If I have 10 of these vests, and I'm happy, I need these 10 vests, but I donate one to Sri Harsha. I donate one to Sujata. I donate one to Danya. And now I'm unhappy. That means I've learned nothing. But if I can train myself to be just as happy as if when I had 10 vests, that shows that I am growing. So I presented this 2 ways. Bring more demand into your life and focus on being cheerful. Take away more stuff from your life and be just as cheerful. Then we know we are growing. Last quote from you, and then I'll take one. Supriya? Any day, and whatever quote comes with it.
August 3rd.
Turn the mic on.
August 3rd. Watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. Frank Outlaw.
We're laughing because that's exactly what we talked about yesterday, but we haven't read this quote, so read it again.
Oh, great. August 3rd. Watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. Frank Outlaw.
I'm fascinated at how well-connected inspiration is. This secular book by Zig Ziglar, who's a business leader, and its connection to Vedanta. What comes before thoughts? Desires. What comes before desires? Vasanas. Spin vasanas as character. Okay? So character manifests as desires. If I have a corrupt character, I have these kind of desires. If I have a noble character, I have these kind of desires. Desires manifest as thoughts. Thoughts manifest as, before that, words. Words manifest as actions. Actions then develop into habits. If I keep doing the same action, a habit, and that habit spins into character. My habits slowly become my vasanas again. See, this pendulum doesn't just go one way, it goes both ways. So I'm going to use secular words. Character, thoughts, character, habits, thoughts, words, actions, okay? I'm going from subtlest to least subtle. Again, character, habits, thoughts, words, actions. Now give me Sanskrit words for this. What is character? Vasanas. What is habits? Desires. Let's call them desires. Then thoughts, words, and action. Those are English and Sanskrit. Let's just blend them together. And it's the first line here is watch your thoughts. Because as you think, so you become. We only watch what we feel is important. Movies, stocks, sports scores, sports players, sports everything. Clothing prices. What's selling on eBay? This is where I subtly get to pick on people. We only watch what's important. Now, none of that is important when it comes to our thoughts. This is where all other importance stems from our thoughts. This is why we practice Mona. This is why we do retreats. This is why we have discussions, is watch your thoughts. This is why, starving for service, we tested, as we get hungrier, what are our thoughts doing? Now here, as we get more tired, what are our thoughts doing? You know, next year we should do sleeping for whatever word we come up with. Because next year we're doing a yatra this winter as well, and it'll be S for S again. So we need to raise another 15,000. And Guruji is huge on this. He said, I'm going to raise funds by sleeping. And everyone kind of laughs when he does it, but he's very serious about it, and no one has implemented it yet. So we're going to. 1 year from now, we're going to be... No, sleep. Not a wake-a-thon, the sleep-a-thon. So next year, and all of you are like, wow, this is awesome. We should have done that this year. So, I'm sorry? Let me pay you so you can... Yeah. So next year, we'll give you all a small rectangle, and you're not allowed to move from that rectangle. You just have to be as inert, as Thomas as possible. So anyways, whoever's coming on the yatra this year, begin thinking along those lines about how we're going to raise $15,000 through sleeping. Going back to the quote, we have to start to watch our thoughts. If I'm thinking angry thoughts, what kind of words am I going to use? And the kind of words I'm going to use are going to become manifest as actions. And the more I act on something, it becomes a habit. I have a habit now, it's not a good habit, of eating very fast. I caught myself many times yesterday when we were eating in Mona, and I realized why there's a reason for it, is because for the last 6 years or so, and when I'm eating in bhikshas, people are asking me questions. So I have to quickly chew in and respond to them. And I can't chew quickly, so I often have to put my hand up in and speak because everyone just keeps staring. So now I just have a habit of eating quickly, and it's going to take me a long time to change that habit. 90% of the time I'm now eating quickly. See how those thoughts, words, actions have now become my habit. And if I don't change that habit, it will become a vasana, which instead of 90% of the time, it will be 100% of the time. And that is our destiny. If my vasanas are selfish, my experience is selfish. And whatever other texture we want to adapt. Fair. Yesterday, I chose August 17th, which is Lord Krishna's Jayanti. Then I chose May 8th, which was Gurudev Jayanti. We'll now take June what? June 30th, which is Puja Swami Tejamananda's birthday. Okay? Jayanti is when a great person is no longer alive. So we don't use the word Jayanti while someone is alive. Nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. Nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. Ralph Waldo Emerson. When you thought Ralph, you meant Ralph from The Simpsons. We were at my cousin's house, Vikas, who will be coming later today, and we just sat down and watched best episodes of Simpsons, just clips, and of Ralph specifically. And one of the funniest parts is when Chalmers is there, and he goes, "Hey, Super Nintendo Chalmers." Instead of Superintendent Chalmers, he calls him, "Hey, Super Nintendo Chalmers." Enthusiasm here is fuel. We can have a lot of great ideas. Imagine I have a lot of great ideas, but not money to make that happen. Then what are those great ideas worth? Nothing. And that's why we have venture capitalists. That I have the idea, but the venture capitalist can give me the resources. So here, what Ralph Waldo Emerson is saying is that we all have great ideas. I mentioned this yesterday. But if we don't have the fuel, which we would call enthusiasm makes me move towards that, then there's going to be no achievement, no act. This is what Lord Krishna told Prince Arjuna, you need to act. You have all of these fancy ideas, but you can't touch them unless you